Ladies and gentlemen, let me slow this thing down and talk real for a moment, because the first fear a man experiences after hurting a good woman is one he never sees coming. It's the fear of realizing her value too late. And I don't mean late like a week or a month later. I mean late like when she's already emotionally checked out, when her heart has packed its bags, even though her body might still be in the room. That's the kind of late that changes a man forever. You see, while she was there, he didn't see her as rare. He saw her as regular. Her love became routine. Her support became expected. Her sacrifices became invisible. She showed up every day, holding him down, listening to his problems, encouraging his dreams, forgiving his mistakes, and instead of honoring that, he assumed she would always be there. He thought, she's strong. She loves me. She'll wait. And that assumption is where the damage begins. A good woman gives warnings before she leaves. She speaks up. She explains herself. She cries. She tries to fix things that aren't even her responsibility to fix. She asks for effort, respect, reassurance, and consistency. But a man who is careless with her heart doesn't take those moments seriously. He thinks the talking is nagging. He thinks the tears are emotional overreactions. He thinks the patience has no deadline. What he doesn't understand is that every time she has to repeat herself, something inside her is slowly shutting down. Then one day, something changes. She stops arguing. She stops asking. She stops chasing clarity. And that's when the fear begins, even if he doesn't recognize it yet, because silence from a good woman is not peace, it's acceptance. She's no longer fighting for the relationship because she has finally accepted that she can't make someone value what they don't respect. And when that realization hits her, it's already too late for him to fix what he ignored. That's when the man starts looking back. He remembers the way she used to smile at him, the way she checked on him, the way she believed in him when nobody else did. He starts noticing the little things he dismissed, the good morning messages, the concern in her voice, the effort she put into loving him right. And now those memories don't feel comforting. They feel haunting. Because now he understands that not everyone loves like that, and not everyone stays that patient. The fear grows stronger when he realizes she's not coming back the same. Even if she's still physically present, her heart has shifted. She's guarded now. She's quieter. She's no longer pouring herself into him. And that's when it hits him. He didn't lose her when she walked away. He lost her when he stopped appreciating her while she was still trying. And that kind of loss doesn't come with a second chance most of the time. A man begins to understand that timing in love is everything. Love has seasons. There is a season where forgiveness is available, where patience is alive, where rebuilding is possible. But once that season passes, love turns into memory. And memory doesn't answer calls, doesn't respond to apologies, and doesn't care about promises made too late. That's the fear, knowing that he finally became the man she needed, but only after she stopped needing him. He realizes that another man may benefit from the lessons she learned with him. Another man may receive the softer version of her, the wiser version of her, the woman who now knows her worth and won't tolerate less. And that truth hurts, because he knows he helped create that woman through his mistakes, but he won't get to enjoy the reward of her growth. Ladies and gentlemen, realizing a good woman's value too late is a quiet fear. Men don't always talk about it. They don't always show it, but it shows up in late nights, in random memories, in moments when he wonders why nobody else loves him the way she did. Because deep down, he knows the truth. Good women don't leave suddenly. They leave slowly, after being taken for granted for far too long. And once a man understands what he lost, the fear isn't just that she's gone. The fear is knowing that love showed up for him in its purest form, and he didn't recognize it when it mattered most. Ladies and gentlemen, the second fear that settles deep in a man's chest after he hurts a good woman is the fear of losing her loyalty forever. And this fear doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in slowly, quietly when he starts realizing that loyalty is not something you can demand, manipulate, or replace. Loyalty is a gift, and once it's taken for granted, it doesn't come back the same. A good woman's loyalty is different from attachment. She doesn't stay because she's weak, afraid, or dependent. She stays because she chooses to. She sees a man's flaws and still decides to stand beside him. She defends his name when he's not in the room. She protects his secrets. She holds him down when he's unsure of himself. That kind of loyalty isn't loud, but it's powerful. And most men don't understand its value until it's gone. While she was loyal, he felt safe. He knew she wasn't going anywhere. He knew she would answer the phone, show up when needed, and be emotionally available even when he wasn't. That safety made him careless. He thought loyalty meant tolerance. He thought commitment meant endurance. He believed her staying was proof that he could keep pushing boundaries without consequences. What he didn't realize was that loyalty has limits, especially when respect is missing. A good woman doesn't wake up one day and decide to stop being loyal. Her loyalty dies in pieces. It fades every time she feels unheard. It weakens every time her feelings are dismissed. It cracks when promises are broken repeatedly. She gives chances, explanations, patience, and grace. But each time she has to remind a man how to treat her, her loyalty quietly loses strength. She's still there physically, but emotionally she's starting to detach. When a man finally notices the shift, that's when the fear begins. He feels it when she stops defending him, when she no longer corrects people on his behalf, when she doesn't protect his image the way she used to. He feels it when she stops confiding in him, stops sharing her dreams, stops trusting him with her vulnerability. And suddenly, he realizes something terrifying. Her loyalty was never guaranteed forever, and he may have exhausted it. The hardest part for a man to accept is that once a good woman withdraws her loyalty, she rarely gives it back fully. Even if she stays differently. She's cautious now. She watches instead of believing. She listens but doesn't fully trust. And that version of her is painful for a man because he knows he created it. He turned love into defense, trust into hesitation, and loyalty into self-protection. This fear grows stronger when he understands that her loyalty will belong to someone else someday. Another man will receive the respect, honesty, and emotional safety she once offered freely. Another man will benefit from the lessons she learned while being loyal to someone who didn't protect her heart. And that truth stings, because loyalty like hers doesn't reset. It transfers only when it's earned again, and he knows he may never earn it back. A man also fears losing the emotional shelter her loyalty provided. When life gets heavy, when things go wrong, when confidence drops, he realizes there's no one left to remind him of his worth the way she did. Her loyalty wasn't just about romance, it was about belief. She believed in him even when he failed. She stayed when others would have walked away. Losing that kind of support leaves a silence no casual relationship can fill. What makes this fear permanent is knowing that loyalty, once broken, changes how a woman loves forever. Even if she forgives, she never forgets how it felt to be loyal to someone who didn't honor it. She becomes wiser, firmer, less willing to overgive. And the man who caused that change understands something painful. He didn't just lose her loyalty, he lost the version of her that loved without fear. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why losing a good woman's loyalty is one of the deepest fears a man carries after hurting her. Because loyalty isn't loud, dramatic, or flashy. It's steady, quiet, and rare. And once it's gone, no amount of apologies, promises, or regret can fully restore what was freely given and carelessly damaged. Ladies and gentlemen, the third fear that takes hold of a man after he hurts a good woman is the fear of watching her become stronger without him. This fear cuts deep because it forces him to face a truth he tried to avoid for a long time, that he was not her strength, he was her lesson. And when a man realizes that, it shakes his pride in a way nothing else can. While she was with him, her energy was focused on saving the relationship. She was patient, forgiving, understanding, and always trying to make things work. She poured her love into him, often at the expense of herself. She dimmed her needs, quieted her pain, and stayed hopeful longer than she should have. And during that time, he may have believed that she needed him more than he needed her. He thought her softness was weakness, her loyalty was dependence, and her endurance meant she would never leave. But once a good woman reaches her breaking point, something shifts. She stops trying to change him and starts changing herself. She redirects her energy from fixing the relationship to rebuilding her own identity. And that transformation is what scares a man the most, because he knows how she used to be, emotional, available, invested, and now she's focused, grounded, and no longer centered around him. The fear intensifies when he notices that her strength didn't come from another man, but from walking away from pain. She becomes more confident, more self-aware, more selective. She sets boundaries instead of begging. She chooses peace over chaos. And when he sees that she's doing better without him than she ever did with him, it forces him to confront the possibility that he was the obstacle, not the support. A man also fears the independence that comes with her growth. When she no longer needs his validation, attention, or approval, his control disappears. She doesn't react to his silence. She doesn't chase his affection. She doesn't collapse when he pulls away. And that emotional independence terrifies a man who once believed he held power over her feelings, because now she holds power over her own life. This fear shows up when he realizes she's no longer waiting for him to change. She's no longer hopeful about a future that includes him. Her dreams have shifted, her standards have risen, and her tolerance for emotional chaos has vanished. She's not angry anymore, she's peaceful. And peace is intimidating to someone who thrived on emotional imbalance. The most painful part for a man is recognizing that her strength was built from the pain he caused. Every time he dismissed her feelings, every time he broke a promise, every time he made her question her worth, he contributed to her awakening. She learned resilience from disappointment. She learned self-respect from neglect. She learned clarity from heartbreak. And now she's standing taller, wiser, and less willing to accept anything less than what she deserves. He fears that this stronger version of her will never choose him again because she knows better now. She sees red flags clearly. She understands her value deeply, and she won't sacrifice her peace to accommodate someone who couldn't protect her heart. That realization haunts him because he knows he can't unteach her what pain taught her. Another layer of this fear is watching her glow in ways she never did while she was with him. She laughs more freely. She speaks with confidence. She carries herself with purpose. And instead of feeling proud, he feels regret because he realizes that she didn't bloom in his presence. She bloomed in his absence. A man also fears that others will notice her strength and admire it. Her growth attracts respect, opportunities, and healthier connections. People see her worth clearly now, including men who are emotionally mature enough to handle her. And that reality hurts because he knows those men may give her the security, consistency, and appreciation she once asked him for. Ladies and gentlemen, watching a good woman become stronger without you is a silent punishment. There's no argument, no confrontation, no closure. Just the undeniable truth that she rose by letting go. And the fear a man carries isn't just losing her. It's knowing that he helped shape a woman who no longer needs him and may never look back. Ladies and gentlemen, the fourth fear that grips a man after he hurts a good woman is the fear of another man treating her better. This fear is sharp, personal, and relentless because it forces him to imagine something he never wanted to picture, her receiving the love, respect, and consistency she begged him for, but from someone else. And that image has a way of replaying itself in his mind when he least expects it. While she was with him, she asked for simple things: effort, honesty, presence, emotional safety. She didn't ask for perfection. She asked for intention. She wanted to feel chosen, valued, and protected. But he delayed. He minimized her needs. He thought there would always be time to do better tomorrow. He assumed that because she stayed through his worst, she would still be there when he finally decided to be his best. When she leaves or emotionally detaches, that assumption collapses. And the fear begins when he realizes that another man might show up already prepared to give her what she had to beg for. Another man might listen without defensiveness. Another man might reassure her without being asked. Another man might make her feel safe instead of anxious. And that thought eats at him because he knows it wasn't impossible. It was just inconvenient for him at the time. This fear hits hardest because he knows exactly how much she tolerated. He remembers the nights she cried quietly, the conversations she tried to have calmly, the times she lowered her expectations just to keep the peace. He knows how patient she was, how forgiving she became, how much she compromised herself to make the relationship work. So when he imagines another man benefiting from a healed, wiser, and emotionally stronger version of her, it feels like a loss he can't replace. A man fears that another man will appreciate her in ways he failed to. He imagines her being listened to without interruption, supported without excuses, and loved without confusion. He imagines her not having to question where she stands, not having to fight for attention, not having to guess whether she matters. And suddenly, he realizes that what she wanted wasn't too much. It was just too much for him. There's also a deep insecurity tied to this fear. He worries that another man will make her happier than he ever did. That she'll laugh more, smile more, and feel lighter. That she'll finally relax into love instead of surviving it. And that realization bruises his ego because it confirms a truth he avoided. He didn't fail because he couldn't love. He failed because he didn't choose to love her properly. This fear intensifies when he understands that she won't love the next man the same way she loved him. She'll love smarter, stronger. With boundaries, she won't overgive or overextend herself. She won't tolerate emotional neglect. The next man will receive the benefit of her growth, her self-respect, and her clarity. And the man who hurt her knows he helped shape that version of her, but he won't get to experience it. He also fears comparison. He imagines her noticing the difference. He imagines her realizing how peaceful love can be when it's mutual. He imagines her thinking, this is what I was asking for all along. And that comparison hurts more than rejection because it confirms that he could have been that man. He just chose not to be when it mattered. Another painful layer of this fear is knowing that another man will protect her heart. He will be careful with her feelings because he understands her worth. He will value her softness instead of exploiting it. He will recognize her loyalty as rare instead of guaranteed. And the man who once had her knows how devastating it is to realize that someone else will now guard what he once neglected. This fear doesn't disappear with time. It shows up unexpectedly when he hears a song she loved, when he sees a couple laughing, when he remembers how she used to look at him. It shows up when he wonders if she's being loved better now, treated gently now, prioritized fully now. And deep down, he knows she deserves that kind of love, even if it's not from him. Ladies and gentlemen, the fear of another man treating a good woman better is rooted in regret. Regret for not stepping up when he had the chance. Regret for assuming love would wait. Regret for confusing patience with permanence. Because once a good woman leaves, she doesn't look for just love, she looks for peace. And any man who can give her that will always be a reminder of what the first man failed to be. Ladies and gentlemen, the fifth fear that haunts a man after he hurts a good woman is the fear of the silence that comes after her love is gone. Not the loud kind of silence filled with arguments and accusations, but the quiet, heavy silence that follows acceptance. This silence is different because it doesn't ask questions, it doesn't demand explanations, and it doesn't wait for change. It simply exists, and that's what makes it so terrifying. When she loved him, the space was never quiet. Even when they argued, her voice was present. She called, texted, checked in, explained how she felt, and tried to communicate. She asked him to understand her, to hear her, to choose her. Her emotions filled the room, and even when it felt overwhelming to him, it meant she still cared. What many men fail to realize is that effort makes noise. Love makes noise. Silence only arrives when love is exhausted. At first, he may enjoy the quiet. No more questions. No more emotional conversations. No more accountability. He tells himself things are finally peaceful. But that peace is an illusion, because real peace feels warm, not empty. And eventually, the absence of her presence begins to feel strange. He reaches for his phone and realizes there's no message waiting. He has a thought and no one to share it with. The person who once made him feel seen has gone quiet, and the weight of that starts to settle in. This fear deepens when he understands what her silence actually means. It means she has accepted the truth. She no longer believes her words will change anything. She has stopped hoping he will suddenly become the man she needed. Her silence is not punishment, it's self-preservation. She's choosing her mental and emotional peace over a cycle that kept hurting her. And that kind of silence is final. A man fears this silence because it reflects his failure back to him without saying a word. There are no arguments to defend himself in, no tears to dismiss, no emotions to minimize, just space. And in that space, he hears his own thoughts clearly. He remembers the moments he ignored her. The times he could have done better but chose comfort instead. The chances he had to protect her heart and didn't. Silence forces him to confront himself, and that's something many men try to avoid. The fear intensifies at night. When distractions fade and the world slows down, the quiet becomes louder. He misses her voice, even the parts he once complained about. He misses being needed. He misses knowing someone cared enough to speak up, and the realization hits him. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And her silence is proof that she has crossed into that space. What makes this fear worse is knowing that her silence is selective. She isn't silent with everyone. She laughs with others. She shares with others. She opens up in spaces where she feels safe and valued. The silence is reserved for him, and that hurts because it means he no longer has access to her inner world. He is no longer the person she turns to, and that loss feels deeper than anger ever could. A man also fears that silence means there is no return. Anger can be softened. Tears can be comforted. Conversations can be repaired. But silence means the door is closed. It means she's done explaining herself. She has said everything she needed to say, and now she's moving forward without looking back. And no apology sounds strong enough to break that kind of quiet. The silence reminds him that love requires maintenance. That attention matters. That presence matters. And when those things are neglected, love doesn't explode, it fades. Slowly, quietly, until one day it's gone. And when a man finally understands that, he realizes the silence isn't cruel. It's honest. Ladies and gentlemen, the fear of silence after a good woman's love is gone is one of the most painful lessons a man can learn. Because silence doesn't argue, doesn't negotiate, and doesn't wait. It simply confirms that what was once alive has been laid to rest, and all that remains is the echo of what he failed to protect. Ladies and gentlemen, the sixth and deepest fear a man carries after hurting a good woman is the fear of living with regret he can't undo. This fear doesn't arrive all at once. It grows slowly, quietly, over time settling into his chest. When life slows down and distractions stop working, regret is patient. It waits until the noise fades, until excuses run out, until the truth stands alone with nowhere to hide. At first, he convinces himself he had reasons. He tells himself he was stressed, confused, immature, not ready, or dealing with his own issues. He rewrites the story in his head to soften his responsibility. But regret doesn't care about explanations. Regret only cares about outcomes. And the outcome is simple. A good woman showed up with real love, and he mishandled it. This fear grows stronger when he realizes regret has no reset button. You can apologize for mistakes, but you can't rewind moments. You can promise change, but you can't erase damage already done. He remembers the times she needed reassurance and didn't get it. The moments she needed protection and felt alone. The nights she cried silently while he slept peacefully, unaware or uninterested. And those memories don't fade. They replay in different forms, reminding him of who he was when he had the chance to be better. A man fears regret because it exposes missed opportunities. He knows he could have listened more, tried harder, shown up emotionally instead of just physically. He knows he could have chosen patience instead of ego, effort instead of comfort, growth instead of pride. And the hardest part is knowing that becoming better now doesn't benefit the woman who deserved it most. He finally understands what love required, but the lesson came at the cost of losing her. Regret deepens when he sees the consequences of his actions clearly. He watches her move forward. He sees her boundaries get stronger. He notices that she no longer makes room for behavior she once tolerated. And it hits him, she learned from him. Not because he taught her love, but because he taught her what pain looks like. That realization hurts because he never intended to be the man who taught her how to protect herself by walking away. This fear becomes permanent when he understands that regret doesn't always lead to redemption. Some losses are final. Some doors close quietly and never reopen. He realizes that love isn't guaranteed twice. That timing matters. That good women don't wait forever. And that realization humbles him in a way nothing else can, because regret forces him to face the truth that not every mistake gets a second chance. A man also fears regret because it follows him into new relationships. No matter who he meets next, there are moments when he compares. He notices differences. He recognizes what's missing. And sometimes he realizes that no one loves him with the same depth, patience, or sincerity she did. And that's when regret sharpens, because he understands that he didn't just lose a woman, he lost a kind of love that doesn't come around often. Late nights are where regret speaks the loudest. When the world is quiet and there's no one to impress, he sits with his thoughts. He remembers her voice, her expressions, the way she believed in him, even when he doubted himself. He remembers how safe she made him feel. And the pain isn't just missing her, it's knowing he was careless with something sacred. Regret also teaches him something uncomfortable about accountability. He can't blame her for leaving. He can't call her weak for choosing herself. He can't accuse her of giving up. Deep down, he knows she stayed longer than she should have. She fought harder than she was required to. And that knowledge removes every excuse he once leaned on. All that's left is ownership. This fear stays with a man because regret matures him too late. It teaches him emotional intelligence after the exam is over. It shows him the cost of neglect, the price of selfishness, and the weight of unspoken apologies. He becomes the man she asked him to be, just not in time to keep her. Ladies and gentlemen, regret is the final lesson in love. It doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It simply sits there, reminding a man that he once held something real, rare, and beautiful in his hands and didn't protect it. And the fear isn't just that he lost her. The fear is knowing that no matter how much he grows, some losses are permanent and some love stories don't get a rewrite.